What's happening, YouTube? My name is Immortal Coil, and tonight we're going to talk about my top 5 lightsaber fights. Now, lightsaber fights are a very subjective thing. Spin your wheels about, technique, or about performance, or about this and that. The first one I want to talk about is Yoda versus Dooku, Episode 2. Now, the first thing that I want to say is that Dooku says that their match cannot be decided by their knowledge of the Force, but by their skills by the blade. And this is actually the first time that we get to see Yoda do Form 4. He jumps around unrestrained, fueled by the Force, to the extent that somebody like Dooku, who is known to be one of the finest Force duelers that there is in that specific era, he has to resort to Force trickery. He has to drop something to threaten Yoda's friends, and Yoda does the, Yoda pulls a Yoda. Yeah. Next thing I'd like to touch on is Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. And this is on the second Death Star. This is the instance where the Sith Lords are basically playing Luke off of one another. They both want Luke as their apprentice, but they're not willing to take the final step. And honestly, when it came to that final step, it doesn't happen. Anakin comes back. Now here's what happens. There's no way that Luke is going to kill his father. Luke has enough love in his heart for who Anakin is, or who he believes Anakin to be. Even though Darth Vader has explicitly said at certain points in his own trajectory that Anakin's done. Anakin was weak, I've killed him. But in the one moment where it counted, Luke tossed away his saber and defiantly stood toe-to-toe with the Emperor, and he said, "I am a Jedi like my father before me." And he actually threw a a quick little face to Vader, because he knew who that man was inside that mask. And then the Emperor said, "If you will not join us, you will die," and unleashed the most horrifying barrage of lightning that has ever been seen in moviedom. Next, I want to give Qui Gon versus Darth Maul, which is a hardcore fight. Okay, they introduced the idea of this energy shield separating the combatants, because obviously if Qui Gon and ObiWan had teamed up against Darth Maul, then I think Darth Maul would have gotten taken down. But in order to make the parallel to where Obi-Wan gets to scream, "No!" just like Luke had to scream, "No!" to watch his master get stricken down in the prime of life. Now, the difference is that Qui-Gon Jinn had only had a modicum of training in the ability to keep himself like alive and in the Force. ObiWan actually like smiled, like he was like, check this out. And then he was even like talking Luke through the dogfight. He's like, hey, turn off your fucking computer. It's not a big deal. Use the Force. Watch this. This is how shit works. Cool. Next thing I want to talk about is Ahsoka versus Vader. Now, if you haven't watched Star Wars Rebels, I know it's kind of hard to like get into. I don't like aspects of the animation style, okay? The way that they render Kanan and the way that they render Ezra is very much in keeping with Disney aesthetics. But because of the fact that Dave Filoni is the hand and fist behind the storyline, I actually gave this tale a wide lattice. Okay, now when we examine the end of Season 2, especially if you watched the Clone Wars, and especially if you watched how Ahsoka has come to realize who Darth Vader is, then you get to see some like mighty tall strategy. So by the time they face off, you feel the full weight of the moment. And especially if you watched through the end of the series, then you fully feel the weight of the encounter. Nobody actually fully emerges victorious, and neither could they be, because Vader needs to survive because of the fate that we see delivered in the movies. Ahsoka needs to survive because, honestly, I think she has something to either teach Luke or Rey. Now, the last saber fight that I'm going to tell you is probably the most controversial, because it's not very acrobatic. And in this sense, and I'm saying this as a martial artist, okay? ObiWan versus Darth Maul on Tatooine. Pow, pow, pow. Obi-Wan sets up Darth Maul in the same way that he observed when he was like 19, and Darth Maul falls right into the trap, and Obi-Wan cuts him down. And that's how you know that Obi-Wan is a master. Don't believe that he's anything different, because if you do, you're going to end up losing your arm in a fucking cantina on the other side of Mos Eisley. My name is Immortal Coil. Like, subscribe, share with your buddies if you think that this shit is shareable. Tell your friends, families, and loved ones about the Fandom Collective, about the Fandom Menace, about savage spirituality. And remember, hello there.